obviously one of the reasons I think the show lasts as long as it does and has as many fans as it does is it does do what the book and the film fail to do in terms of like having female characters, right? Like as I recall, there's basically no women in the book who get depicted very well. The movie,
Yeah.
they're essentially absent. But like the female characters in the show, I mean, you have Tammy, who's great. You have Julie. You have Lila Garrity. You have Tyra Collette. You have in later seasons, you've got Becky and Jess. Yeah, that's her name. Yeah, like, and she, like I think the Jess storyline where she becomes like an assistant coach is kind of cool. Like, I think that's one of the better late season stuff. On the one hand, it just makes it more of a teen drama because it's like, yeah, all right, we're gonna do a lot of dating storylines. We're gonna do a lot of storylines about like the sex lives of the characters. But on the other hand, like it allows them to do like the abortion story. It allows, it just makes it. There is gender stuff in the show that is completely absent from the book and the film. But I think it just in some ways just turns it into a more generic teen show. But what are your thoughts on that?
I don't know. Like, so none of the actresses in the show, I guess, excepting Connie Britton, have really like gone on to anything, which doesn't really surprise me. I think they're like mostly good. I think like Julie, helps sort of really kind of flesh out the family dynamic of the Taylors, and there are great scenes between like Julie and Eric and Julie and Tammy. I think Tyra is very sort of up and down part of the
Yeah,
show.
Tyra is the one I think who she has like the least connection to the football team in the sense that she does date Riggins in the beginning, but she doesn't really other after that she doesn't really date any of the players. She's like openly antagonistic to the team. She's not related to anyone on the team. She's not a cheerleader. So like it's hard. So she was like often in her own show. Like she was often like they had that storyline where she's dating like that oil rig guy for one episode. There's like and obviously there was the murder plot line. Like there's just stuff where she's just like off in her own world, and
Her was doing weird stuff with her hair.
she's always doing weird stuff with her hair. And I like Adrian Palicki. She does her best. Sometimes she's very good in this role, but it's often, as you say, it's very up and down.
Yeah, it's funny that she's like the only person who's like a series regular for 5 seasons.
Is
Like
she? I thought she left in season 5.
well,
Or
never mind.
no. I think you're because somebody. Yeah, I'm getting this all confused because so like there's like a reunion between her and Riggins at the end, but I can't. I think it's because it's when Riggins gets out of prison or whatever.
Yeah,
It's like so.
but like yeah, they never really like figure her out in this ecosystem.
Yeah,
But she has some good scenes, especially like with Tammy and stuff. And I mean, I like a lot of her relationship with Landry, even if the season 2 goes off the rails. Yeah, I mean, I think it certainly the women of the show and Lila and stuff like really help give it texture and emotional depth. If you read the sort of coverage of the show and interviews with people who are on the show, like the sort of knock against the show was that the football scared away the girls and
yeah.
the soap opera scared away the boys. So they're really trying to corner the non-binary audience. But I think that one of the conclusions I think you and I have is like it really is a teen soap opera more than anything, like more than a
Yeah.
football show.
No, and I
And
think that explains like sort of the arc of the show, which is that I think, they talk in the Grantland oral history that you mentioned earlier about how the marketing emphasized the football, right? And that early on people who like non-football fans were like sort of scared away or turned off from the show. Like, why would I watch that? And I think part of the reason the show like caught on was people who initially ignored the show because they thought it was a football show eventually liked it because they realized like once people were recommending it to them and were like, no, it's actually not really about football. They realized like this is just a teen soap opera. And so like I think it got a lot of the non-football fans who don't really care about whether they're going to run the wildcat or the spread offense or any of that shit, like, and who are more invested in the dating lives of the characters and the depictions of high school stuff. And again, that's not to be like condescending or too dismissive of that stuff. I think that stuff is often very good. One thing I wanted to say about the like female character stuff. So there's a lot of storylines about Julie and Matt, her boyfriend, and whether they're like going to have sex or they've had sex or whatever. And I think like there's an episode where she and Matt are planning to lose their virginities to each other, and her mom finds out, and like it's a very like compelling episode and scene because it's like they're arguing about the value of doing this without trying to be like fear mongering about the dangers of premarital sex. You know, like her argument is not like you're gonna get pregnant, it's gonna ruin your life, or you're gonna get some venereal disease and you're gonna die. It's just like having sex too young is like a bad idea, you know? And like, I think that that's something that like is, you know, and I think that the show handles that somewhat maturely. And I think a lot of these storylines were well done. And I think that like the romance stuff, you know, maybe that's like seems dismissive, but it is a, you know, like I'm invested in the Matt and Julie love story. Like I thought that was good. Like I was always rooting for
Yeah.
those kids, you know, like I think that stuff is the Tim Street Lila love triangle. Look, that's a kind of storyline you see on like the OC and stuff. Like it's, you know, but again, I fucking love that shit. Like I'll watch it, you know, like it's not a criticism. It's just that I think what it loses is some of the class analysis and the structural analysis that are so important to the book and even the movie.
Yeah. I the that episode, they don't actually end up having sex, but like when they talk about losing their virginity to each other, I think it's one of the more memorable episodes. It was one that I made sure to rewatch, like, you know, in the days before we're recording this. And it's a really strong episode, and I think it's like the show at like, you know, what it does best, you know, because like in that episode you get it's sort of deftly handled. There's some great scenes with like Julie and her parents, Julie and Tammy specifically, but also like, you know, when Eric kind of finds out and is sort of part of it.
Are you thinking about pregnancy? Are you thinking about sexually transmitted diseases?
Well, I mean, obviously, that's why he's buying condoms.
Oh, I see. So you're just buying condoms, and then when you buy condoms, that just makes you ready to make love to somebody, anybody.
Making love.
Don't do that. Don't you smirk at me right now. I am very upset. You are not allowed to have sex. You're 15 years old.
I don't see what the big deal. It's just one body part going into
No, it's not. No, it's not. It's not just one body part going into another body part. And the fact that you think that it's just one body part going into another body part makes me real clear on the fact that you really are not ready for this. And I need you to be able to hear that. I need you to be able to hear me say that to you.
I'm listening to you.
Let me tell you what the big deal is. Let me tell you what can happen. What can happen is that you can be hurt. And you can be degraded. And you can become hard and you can become cynical. And I don't want that to happen to you.
I also like the way that they handle like the social dynamics of it, you know, where like, you know, Julie kind of says to Matt that, you know, she's like, we should have sex, and he's like, what, you know, and then he starts like going to talk to his buddies, and like his buddies start like making fun of him, and then he talks to like the team about it, and then like the team just starts like making jokes and stuff, and then you know, like I think it's like sort of like organic, the interactions that are shown between like Matt and Smash, who are like not really friends, but like, you know, Smash is like sort of senior to him and like, you know, is like the superstar with the entourage. So he'll like impart some advice, you know, and like Riggins kind of like pulls him aside and like says a couple things to him. You know, it's like that would really happen. Like, you know,
Yeah.
like
No, I think the show's dialogue is always very good, and it captures like how people talk to different people differently. I mean, that sounds like it's kind of stupid, but like it's one of the few shows where people talk to their friends' parents the way I would talk to my friends' parents as a high school, which is not to treat them either like with the like complete respect, but also not to treat them like a peer, to just get like somewhat awkward around them, but also try to be like excessively polite. Like, you know, like when you're leaving, you're like, oh, good night, Mr. Julie. You know, like that kind of awkwardness is sometimes, which is sometimes like, yeah, like that's how I often talk to my like friends' parents a lot of the time. But like, and also like the way you talk to people in high school who are not really your friends, but also not someone like you dislike, you know, like that kind of what you're talking about, where like, you know, you find out someone's like about to have sex with his girlfriend and you like talk about it, but like you're not close, you're not like necessarily going to be buddies about it. Like that, the way that sounds always felt very realistic.